All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second day our second week, our third session of the digital and social media program in the introduction to the introduction and update that we're doing for small businesses. Really excited to have everyone here to join us again for this third session. This course just keeps growing with the number of participants. We're in a situation now, I think we're at 30 countries and over 575 people registered for this. So thank you very much for joining and continuing to connect in with the information. It's really been great as we sort of take a look at that as it gets deployed. So thank you very much for the vote of confidence and for joining and connecting in with us as we take a look at where things are going. One of the things that we want to do today is to take a look at the session as it applies to looking at Facebook. As with all of our sessions that we've ran, for those of you that have joined us for the first two sessions, everything is recorded. And so for those of you who may have missed the first couple of sessions, feel free to go back into the playlist link that we have provided you with the contact details to be able to connect in. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Lau Wetch. I'm an associate professor of marketing here at Memorial University in St. John's, Newfoundland, as well as the designer and the developer and the facilitator of the digital and social media program that we deliver when COVID-19 life is over. We deliver several face-to-face training sessions through our partner locations here at the Gardner Centre in St. John's, Newfoundland, as well as Sprott professional programs at Carleton University in Ottawa and Edwards Executive Education at the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon. If you do have any questions as we're working our way through the hour-long session today, please feel free to type them into the chat windows in either Facebook if you're watching on Facebook Live, on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube Live, or if you're one of our connecting individuals that's coming in through Zoom, feel free to type a question into the chat window. With the system that I've got set up, I can see all of these platforms fairly well. The font on the YouTube one's a little bit small because I've got everything on 4 screens in front of me, so it's a little bit small from there. But we will try to address any questions that you may have as we're working our way through the session. And anything that we don't get to, please feel free to connect in on the Facebook group, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So the session today is really sort of the midway point when we get to the end of today's session. And this is a 6-part micro course that we threw together to try to sort of help organizations and individuals get a little bit of an understanding about what are some of the key things that you may be missing out of on your social media channels or your digital media deployment. It is by no means an all-encompassing content perspective. Like for example, we're going to be taking a look at about 45 minutes on Facebook today. During our strategy and tactics seminar, we spend 3.5 to 5 hours looking at Facebook and all of the elements and all of the components that are on there. So this is really designed to address some of the main things, to give you an update on where things are going now in 2020, and just to provide you with an opportunity to update your skills and answer any questions that you've got and to be able to connect in. As we mentioned in our connection information to you, we have created a private Facebook group where the slides have been posted into the individual units. If you do have questions following the session and we don't get to them, if you did type them into the chat windows on the respective platforms, feel free to go in and ask the questions and comment in the specific units within the private Facebook group. that is there. If you haven't connected in with that yet, please feel free to do so. Make sure that when you do go in to join the group, there are 3 questions that we do ask you to answer prior to being admitted into the group. The main one that we're looking for there is your agreement to the terms of use within the group. That's a very important one before we can approve you or connect you in. So that's the more of the logistical side of things that we wanted to take a look at. So where we're going to be going today is really taking a look at Facebook and the massive number of changes that have gone on within Facebook, and coming to grips a little bit with all of the things that we need to start thinking about. Many organizations that have been using Facebook for a lot of years are going to be in a fairly tricky situation in that they may be missing out on a lot of the opportunities. Facebook has always been challenging, but last year was a real major milestone in Facebook's changing its positioning, changing its direction, and organizations really needed to respond to some of these indications that started in 2018, but really came to full fruition in 2020. The Facebook that we're dealing with here in 2020 is not the same Facebook we were dealing with in 2017, 2018. It has become significantly more challenging. There's a lot of key tactical elements that we need to change in what we do, and we're going to address some of those with you today as we take a look at where things are going. But just before we drill in and take a look at the nuts and bolts of some of the key things about Facebook that we want to take a look at, let's just sort of give you a little bit of a perspective on where things are as far as the actual numbers. Now, realizing that we have a global audience tuning in to us over the multiple platforms today, I was unfortunately not able to put specific data for every single country that was in there, so we tended to focus specifically on a North American context. And so my apologies to our international audiences, but with 30 countries, it would have gotten to be an extremely small graphic or a lot of slides to be able to cover the content that was there. What I've tried to do with this is to sort of take a look at it from the standpoint of the Facebook-owned properties to also help put that in perspective, because that's one of the key things that's going to become a lot more significant and important. If we take a look, Facebook itself, globally, as of, I think the updated numbers we had were December of 2019. They haven't updated the monthly active users since then, but we're really looking at 2.5 billion monthly active users. Now, when we're talking about social media platforms, it's really important that in most cases that we look at the monthly active users. A monthly active user is defined as someone who, over a course of a period of 30 days, has either posted, commented, shared, liked, engaged in some way, shape, or form with content on that platform. What this really helps us do is to remove numbers of people who may have simply just created an account but are not actively using it. One of the challenges that this creates is for platforms such as Twitter, where a lot of people use Twitter simply as a means of monitoring and following the news as it's coming in. They may not be counted as an active user if they're not actually tweeting or sharing content. If they're simply using it as a media consumption channel, they won't be showing up as an active user. One of the other ones that we're going to talk about on Wednesday when we look at YouTube, when they talk about monthly active users, they actually look at them in the perspective of those who are physically logged in to their YouTube account at that time. So in some cases, the numbers may be slightly underreported from the activity, and we just need to always bear that in mind when we're looking at the numbers. When we look at Facebook, 2.5 billion monthly active users on a global basis. In the USA, we're looking at 190 million accounts, personal profiles on Facebook. Canada's down to 22 million. And then across that, looking at the 3 provinces where we have our partners located in Newfoundland and Labrador, we're dealing with 350,000 individuals who have a personal Facebook profile, 8.1 million within Ontario, and 700,000 within Saskatchewan. When we compare that to the numbers that are showing up on Instagram, in the United States, they have 130 million accounts on Instagram, 14 million in Canada, 150,000 in Newfoundland and Labrador, 5.9 million in Ontario, and 400,000 in Saskatchewan. What we typically see is some variations of around half to 3/4 the similar numbers to Facebook users are on Instagram in those platforms. Some provinces and locations, such as we see with Newfoundland, it's going to be a little bit less than half. Others, as we take a look at Ontario, it's going to be a much higher ratio and a higher percentage in perspective to what's going on Facebook. When we take a look at Messenger, which is one that's really critical that we want to take a look at, Messenger in the USA has 22 million users, 2.2 million in Canada, so about 2%, about 10% rather, of Facebook. Newfoundland is sitting, and Labrador is sitting at 26,000. Ontario's at 730,000, and Saskatchewan is sitting at 85,000. Now, one of the things to bear in mind is that when we're thinking about Facebook, Facebook's numbers are stagnating in a North American context. They continue to be able to maintain their status pretty well globally because they're still expanding in countries that may not have had a strong Facebook presence with regards to the platform. So that's there. The youth and teens are still using Facebook. They're just not using it the same way that they would have in the past. They're spending less time on it. They're spending more time on Instagram and Snapchat and on the visual channels that they're taking a look at because that's where things have really become significantly more important as we go. Now, one of the things that we want to sort of take a look at when we're thinking about Facebook is the news feed is well and truly dead. Organic reach is something that is virtually non-existent for the vast majority of brands on Facebook. This is one of the big reasons why we should never be paying attention and looking at the reports for, well, how many fans have we got on Facebook? How many followers do we have on Facebook for our page? Because those numbers are well and truly pretty irrelevant. It's not how many you've got following you or connected with you. It's what are they actually doing. That's the part that really becomes key. Because you right now, the average reach that a Facebook page is going to get of your fans and followers is about 0.5%. So less than 0.5% of your Facebook fans are ever going to see your content showing up in their newsfeed. This is key. When we take a look at what's going on with organizations, we see that there's a massive, massive challenge that they're dealing with regards to how they reach and get their message out there. Part of that is because Facebook is driven by EdgeRank. EdgeRank is the algorithm that Facebook has that determines that have really been quite damaging for brands on Facebook. And this is where, going back to the early days of Facebook, we have always identified with brands that in many cases, you needed to have multiple Facebook pages because you needed to have a unique page for every unique target audience that you had. Now, this became really key and important because of the fact that Facebook looks at how many of the people did they show your content to be able to get that message to them, and how many of them actually engaged with it within the first 2 hours of that post being deployed out. Because of that, it really is absolutely key that as an organization, you've got to make sure that you have very specific Facebook platform for a very specific audience, and that 100% of the posts that you put on any Facebook page needs to be 100% relevant for everybody who's going to be seeing that post coming into their feed. That is absolutely key. And things have gotten a little bit more challenging as well when we're taking a look at Facebook. The new reality as we move into 2020 is the level of trust on Facebook is significantly eroding. 60% of users don't trust Facebook. Because of that, this is where we're seeing a massive change in the positioning of Facebook and some of the factors that they're doing and some of the features that they're incorporating in. And it all sort of evolved out of Mark Zuckerberg's privacy manifesto that he came out with back in 2019, really addressing the fact that Facebook needs to become a more trusted communications network. And this is really driving a lot of the changes in how brands need to deploy and connect on Facebook, and how we need to rethink what the Facebook platform is doing for us. 65% say that their organic reach is declining, or they have no clue whether they do or not. And this is back to the fact that when you do a post on your Facebook page, less than 0.5% of your fans are ever going to see that post showing up in the feed. This is one of the reasons why for several years we have really been stressing the fact that you can't be driving people to like your Facebook page. Because the problem is your typical user out there has no idea that when they like a Facebook page, most of them are never ever going to see content from that page. You need to be really trying to drive people to visit your Facebook page, because when they visit your Facebook page, they'll see all of the posts that were made that are public or that were appropriate for their segmentation. And that is when they're going to get the content that hasn't been filtered out by Facebook, and why it's really critical when we think about how we're posting. There's a couple of key things that we're going to talk about later that come into play. Now, when we take a look at it, there's 7 million advertisers on Facebook, more than ever before. Because of that, the costs of doing advertising on Facebook are up 90% year on year. All of the social media platforms are a competitive auction basis. The more people that show up for the auction, the higher price you're going to have to pay, because you're bidding each other up to the point of where you get to what you're setting as your maximum deployment. For our viewers from the US, it gets even uglier this year, because this is an election year. As you know, we're well aware, we see what's going on in the media. And the challenge with this is, from a social media platform standpoint, all the other main social media platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, have banned election advertising. Facebook's one of the few social media platforms from the main ones out there that is still allowing political ads. So with the war chests, the budgets that the political parties have when we're dealing with a federal election coming into play, the expectations are that 2020 is going to get even worse. When we take a look at advertising spend, what we see when we see all advertising spend reported, there tends to be two different numbers. One that eliminates Olympics and elections. So that gives you sort of a true benchmark, because when the Olympics is in town, then all of a sudden the advertising spend goes up. When we're dealing with elections, then advertising spend goes up to accommodate for that as well. Now, one of the questions we've had come through on Facebook is, what is it that they don't trust? Well, there's been all kinds of potential issues in the past. We've seen several lawsuits that have been filed. We've seen a lot of settlements that Facebook has been paying out large dollars with regards to not complying with some of the extreme privacy legislation that may exist in the EU or other countries. And so because of that, whether it's because people never read the privacy policies or just aren't really aware of what's going on with the platforms, there tends to be this level of trust where it comes to Facebook. They're really not too keen because they think that Mark Zuckerberg's listening and is collecting massive amounts of data, which they are. Every platform is doing that. And that's, one of the things that we've got to sort of take a look at with regards to everything that's going on is how are people perceiving the perceptions of it, and publicly, where does that go? One of the other big realities that is happening, not just within Facebook, but if we take a look globally at what's going on, streaming video is the new normal for all content consumption. Disney Plus is seen as the most important branch of Disney right now, as far as where things are going to go. The number of households, even before COVID-19, that were living on live streaming content and moving away from traditional media deployment have really become key. We're going to take a look at Wednesday at how much YouTube content is actually streamed on large screen, high definition TV sets in people's households. Because of this, people are getting more attuned to streaming video content, and that's what they're looking for. That's the type of content they're wanting to engage with. That's what they're wanting to consume. And that doesn't just apply to their television media watching, but it also transpires into their social media content. When we used to talk about business, we said the three most important things for businesses were location, location, location. Well, today, the three most important things for businesses is video, video, and video. The only question is it live? Is it recorded? What format is it in? What length is it in? Is it 360? Is it standard? Is it 16 by 9, 9 by 16, square? Those are really the only questions. Video has become absolutely essential across every single social media platform, and Facebook is no different than that. One of the things that the research has shown is that video, because of the more transparency of it, it builds trust and loyalty. People want to tune in to connect with the people that are presenting. They want to see what's going on from that perspective. Video gets past some of the algorithm restrictions. So recorded video does better than a standard image post on Facebook, providing you're uploading the video to Facebook. One of the things that's really absolutely essential across every platform is you need to post the video natively. When we're talking about YouTube, you upload that video to YouTube. When you're talking about Facebook, you upload that video to Facebook. Never, ever put a link to a YouTube video in a Facebook post. Mark Zuckerberg hates Google. He doesn't think you should have anything to do with Google or that you ever need to go with Google. So if you want to see how harsh EdgeRank can really be for you, just try posting a YouTube video on your Facebook page and see how few people actually get to see that piece of content. That really becomes key when we go there. So because of that, Facebook's algorithm knows that people want more live video. So live streaming video gets seen by a greater number of users than recorded video. 360 video gets seen by a greater number of users. Live 360 video gets seen by a lot of users because Facebook has a vested interest in making sure that live 360 video succeeds as the owner of Oculus, one of the main VR headset providers, which we're going to take a look at it coming up. The other big advantage of putting out live video content on your Facebook accounts is that you don't need to boost the content like you normally would do if you were doing an image, or God forbid you're still using a text-based post. But if you do boost it, it will get significant better reach and ROI for that boosted price than non-video content. One of the things that has been talked about extensively by Mari Smith, whose nomiker is the Facebook Queen, who actually does a lot of work with Facebook directly. She says that if you want to get past some of the EdgeRank algorithm issues, there's one way that'll sort of build it up, and that is to take a 30 and 30 challenge, to post 30 videos in 30 days on your Facebook account. Whether they're live, recorded, video is absolutely essential. When you're thinking about your content deployment, not just on Facebook, but across every platform that's out there, you really need to be thinking of a 70-20-10. 70% of every post you make on a platform needs to be video. 20% is going to be image-based. 10% is going to be more self-promotion or marketing-based. We've got a question coming in here on YouTube. I'm just going to see if I can sort of pick up on it. It says, is EdgeRank still operational? Yes, it is. EdgeRank is definitely still operational. There's different versions of it. The labeling as far as what they were calling it, but it is still on the basis of evaluating the reach and where people are getting the content. Certain things that are going to impact the reach that's coming in are going to be things like you should never, ever use the words like this post or share this post in a post. Back in December of 2018, Facebook added credibility, taking a look at the engagement. And one of the big things that came from that was that if you say like this post and somebody likes it, you don't get credit for that as far as engagement, because that's like saying, go out on a date with me and I'll buy you a Ferrari. It's not true love, it's bribery. And so Facebook is looking for credible reach, credible engagement. The algorithm that they had several years ago when people first became aware of EdgeRank, that original EdgeRank algorithm has been continuing to evolve, as we'll take a look at a graphic coming up in just a moment. The bottom line is video is going to be absolutely key for everything you do on every single platform. It is fundamentally the most important skill that every digital marketer needs to have. It's one of the main reasons why we created the Digital Content Creator Seminar as part of the Digital Social Media program, and why more than half of the modules of that program are video-based, either live, recorded, 360, physically shooting, creating, deploying the content across those platforms, because nothing is more important than your success on social media. Video is key. And so this is where it's going to help you build skills. Video is going to become nothing except more important down the road. So we've got to be able to learn to create video stories that are both entertaining and educating. And that's one of the key challenges when we think about our content creation across the different platforms. So if we're going to talk about video, we might also go to George Lucas. George Lucas says that when people get to know the people behind your product, they talk about it more. And while that applies to a media and a movie perspective, it also very much applies to your business perspective. So this is where having a face behind your organization becomes key to let people know where things are going and what's going on. So video, having personality, absolutely becomes key. Now, one of the things that we do want to just spend a very brief period of time, hopefully nobody is still dealing with this, but I do want to address it. One of the worst things that you can ever do to put your organization's digital deployment at risk on Facebook is to be accessing a Facebook page from a fake Facebook profile. Facebook has come under a lot of scrutiny since it became a publicly traded company, since all of the manipulation on Facebook with the Russians and the elections and everything that's been taking place. It's become even more critical and more important that's being looked at. So Facebook is constantly developing new and updated algorithms to identify accounts that have not been legit. So you cannot, as an individual, have more than one Facebook profile. So you cannot have a Facebook profile that you use to connect with your friends and another Facebook profile that you use to manage business. That is a direct violation of Facebook's terms of use. And if Facebook finds through their algorithm that you have more than one profile, they will immediately, without warning, delete both of those accounts, and therefore any business page that your fake profile is managing are also deleted. Over the last few years, we have probably had between a dozen and 20 organizations that have had people attending our digital and social media training programs who have had their Facebook page taken away from them. You cannot use a shared login to access Facebook, because the only way that would be happening is through a fake profile. And again, that is a direct violation. You must be managing your Facebook page from your real Facebook profile. You can have only one, and you can never, ever be using a shared login. Facebook needs to know who the individuals are that are behind that post. It's gotten so severe right now to try to protect from fake news that for any large Facebook pages or to make certain changes to your Facebook page, Facebook needs to see government-issued identification for every single individual who is assigned an administrator on that account. So we're talking passport or driver's license. They need to know who the people are behind those posts. Now, the good news is protecting the administrators of a Facebook page is one of the few things that Facebook has always done. There was never any crossing over from your role as an administrator on a Facebook page to your personal profile. Nobody even knows that you're an administrator on that page unless you choose to let them, except for the other administrators. And all they know is your name and your picture, that's your profile picture. They have zero access to your personal Facebook profile. There has always been this distinct separation, but a number of years ago, it became even more powerful to be able to manage that, and that is through Facebook Business Manager. You should never, ever, as a brand, log into your personal Facebook profile to manage a Facebook page. Never do that. Every page, every ad account, everything with regards to Facebook needs to be managed through Facebook Business Manager. And this provides even an additional layer of privacy protection for the individuals who are assigned to that page and gives you the best secure aspect of how you go about managing it. So businesses also cannot have a profile. Profiles are for individuals only. How do you tell the difference? Profiles get friend requests. So if your business is getting friend requests, you can't do that. Your business is not allowed to operate as a profile. It has to be a page. Pages can be individuals, organizations, or brands. So if you are a media celebrity such as local weatherman, or a newscaster, well, you would never, ever want to connect your personal profile and friend all of your fans. Politicians would never, ever want to friend their constituents because there's a lot of things that friends can do that you don't want random people to be able to do to your account. So celebrities, educators, can create a personal page. So they would have their personal profile that they would have protected, locked down, looking after, connecting with their friends and family. And then the public would see their page presence that they would create that people would then follow or like as opposed to friend. And that is key. But again, it must be managed by a real person's profile. Absolutely key and essential. One of the biggest changes that has happened over the last couple of years is that groups have become the most important part about what you do within Facebook. We've seen this transition starting going back into 2018. So about June or July of 2018, Facebook allowed pages to create a group. And so prior to that, we always recommended to brands to stay away from groups because of the fact that it was never able to be created by the page. The group always had the individual connected, and there was a lot of things that being in the same group, you were exposing some personal information of your employees to other members of that group. So back in July of 2018, Facebook said groups are able to create pages. This was amazing. This was step number one, because now a page could create a group. Not groups can create pages. A page could create the group. And because of that, people could join that group and interact with the page, not the individual. So within the Facebook group that we've created for this micro course, I've put myself in as an administrator, but the page is also the administrator, the digital and social media program page. So I could make posts from either one of those. Because of the fact that I'm so tightly connected to the digital and social media program, I had no problems with adding myself as an administrator into that group. But for others, you would never do that. You would always run it from your page's presence. What happened in September of 2018, groups were also able to allow pages to become members of that group. And as of March 2019, if the group hasn't done that, pages can request to become a member of the group even if they haven't changed their settings. What this really allows you to do is to say, for example, in a government setting, you could create a Facebook group that was private, and the only members of that Facebook group that was created by your page would be other Facebook pages. So there would be no individuals ever identified. There would be only discussions between pages. We see the same application being able to be used in academic communities. So for example, Memorial University could create a Memorial University group from their Facebook page that was private, and the Facebook pages of any faculties on campus would be able to become members of that group, and you would be able to have that discussion. So why is this so important? Well, Facebook's Privacy Manifesto, or Mark Zuckerberg's Privacy Manifesto of 2019 in February at F8 rather, came out and was very clear that people are moving to more privacy. People want more protection. Because of that, the focus of Facebook's news feed is going to be posts by friends, families, and groups. So that 0.5% reach that you get through a post from your Facebook page goes away when you're dealing with people in groups. It allows you to also create a single page that may be dealing with multiple topics, and then based on whichever topics people engage with, invite them into a group that is really a much smaller set of individuals, but a very, very, very focused topic content. So that 100% of the posts that you make in that group are going to be 100% relevant to the members of that group, because that's the key. We see a lot of organizations that they strive to get, how many fans can we get on our Facebook page? And they get massive numbers of likes, but the reach that they're getting and the engagement is non-existent. What would you rather have? 4 million fans of your Facebook page and have 2 of them engage with the content? Or 80 members of a Facebook group and having 40 of them engage with your content? That's where, as an organization and as an entity, we have to think about, in many ways, less is more. Having smaller numbers in a Facebook group that are very focused on a specific topic so that we can create highly engaging, highly relevant content, because then people are going to be connecting with it. There is a possibility as well that the more engagement you're getting within your groups, that may drive an increase in edge rank. So whatever you do organically on your Facebook page can get more reach as well. But we're still waiting for the analytics on that to see the data. The long story short is that your Facebook page has changed. Your Facebook page is not where you're trying to get engagement and commentary. If you get it, awesome. That's a bonus. But it is not where it's going to happen. Your Facebook page primary role in 2019 and 2020 is to recruit and identify individuals who are interested in a specific topic and invite them into a private group. Groups have got to be where your focus is and where you've got to be putting your efforts, because that's where you're going to get your reach. That's where you're going to get your engagement. Should the group members want to, they can set it so they get an automatic alert anytime something happens within that group. Facebook groups have a massive amount of features and capabilities within that we go into during our strategy and tactics seminar in a lot of detail, because you can live stream into the Facebook group and then also be taking that stream out on your page as a recruitment side. But your main engagement and your main discussions are going to be happening within the group. Your content strategies still apply. Still video, still live video, but where it's occurring and how you've got your Facebook set up really becomes a significant challenge from there. So your Facebook pages are down to maybe being 1 or 2 pages if you've got a particular business unit, 1 English, 1 French. But within every page, you're going to have multiple groups that are topically based, so that people who are interested in specific topics will be able to engage within those groups. That is where your success for getting organic reach and organic content. People also like groups because there's no paid advertising within groups at this point. Not saying there's never going to be, but there isn't at this particular point in time. So people spend a lot more time looking at content and engaging with content in those relevant groups because they're not being hit with Facebook advertising and marketing coming from that perspective. As we talked about, it is absolutely key that we take a look at Business Manager. Business Manager is going to be an extremely important tool to help you create where you're gaining access. Who has access to the different content on your Facebook accounts? How do you manage your deployment? It is absolutely key, because if you're not using Business Manager, you have never ever used Facebook Analytics. Facebook Analytics is only available in Business Manager. You can go to your Facebook page and you can access insights, but Facebook Insights are not analytics. Analytics are only available within Business Manager. They are far more advanced than anything you get when you're looking at the data on a Facebook page. So this is an example of what we see when we're managing and operating within Facebook Business Manager. This is where you bring all of the individuals that may have access to any of your Facebook properties, whether it's pages, ad accounts, business Instagram accounts, content accounts, platforms, all of that. Everything comes into Business Manager, and you assign access, you manage access and control within the Business Manager context. This is also the only place where you can access and to be deploying through Business Manager is onto your Instagram account. If you are a retailer and you're wanting to do Instagram shopping, the only place where you can upload your catalog is Business Manager. Business Manager is 100% the only way that you should be accessing anything business related on Facebook. It is absolutely critical. So this is a great little chart that Hootsuite put out earlier in the year that talked about how EdgeRank and Facebook's algorithm has evolved. And this is where, when we take a look 2018, it was dealing with those meaningful interactions. And this is where it's all about that engagement. This is one of the reasons why we can't say like this post, because that's not going to be legitimate. We can't have a single Facebook page and be making posts in both English and French, because by doing that, you know that 100%, 50% of the posts you do in English are not going to get engaged with because your French audience isn't going to engage with them, and vice versa. That lack of engagement is going to be the kiss of death when it comes to Facebook. In my sessions, I tend to refer to as Facebook and EdgeRank as social media snakes and ladders. It's sort of like, if you've ever played the game of snakes and ladders, if you put out a good live stream content that gets lots of engagement, that's like one of those little snakes where they go, ooh, people like you, and you get to go up a little bit. And then you put out another great post that gets lots of engagement. That's that little longer snake, and you start to really get close to the end and getting successful. But all it takes is one bad post that gets no engagement. When Facebook showed it to people that should have engaged with it, but they don't, then Facebook goes, holy crap. And it's like that big massive snake, it's the ladders going up, snakes coming down. Got my analogies mixed up. But then you get that snake and you're all the way back to number 2. EdgeRank requires consistent, constant engagement, not random. And this is why we see a lot of pages post too much content that is designed for too broad of an audience on Facebook to ever be successful. It's all about the right message to the right people at the right time. So it's about having more selective content in your groups, less content, but 100% relevant for the audience really is where it comes down to as needed to become key. Live streaming is absolutely essential. When we take a look at what's going on Facebook, people like live streams better than anything. They would prefer a live stream to even reading a social media post. And so therefore, the more live streaming content that you create, the better you are at getting that content out there, the more successful you're going to be in helping to get past that EdgeRank. Because Facebook owns Oculus, the largest 360 provider, 360 videos and 360 images are a big push. Facebook is doing everything they can to make this more relevant and more accessible. And with the new headsets that Oculus has come out with, particularly the Oculus Quest that's in the middle, it has been an absolute game changer. We no longer need to have the VR headset tethered to a PC to be able to run things. We no longer need to stick our phone into the VR headset in order to operate it. And that is the key that comes down when we take a look at this perspective. So Oculus Quest is the first one that has fully 6 degrees of analysis. So when you're using an Oculus Quest, it puts you in the environment. When you lift your hand up, it recognizes your hand in front of you so you can interact with elements. We see this being used extensively for human resource training, for education, absolute game changers at a very low cost as far as where things have come down. The other thing is the Oculus Quest, self-contained, powerful. The VR headsets that you put your phones in, they are essentially completely dead. The Google got rid of theirs. Facebook has announced that they were basically doing a eulogy for any of those sets that comes to play. We're seeing a question. Is there a specific app for Business Manager? No, there is no specific app for Business Manager. You need to go in and run Business Manager. They have a Pages app for doing some elements, and there is a new content creator app which is designed to sort of do some of the pieces from there, but they don't have a Business Manager app. You have to go in and create a Business Manager account through business.facebook.com and then bring everything into that perspective from there. Now, the biggest and most important thing that any one of your organizations is going to be going through over the course of the next few years is messaging. We are well and truly past the era of social media. The top 4 messaging applications get more monthly active users. In fact, in the top 5 social media platforms, the only 2 that are above messaging applications are Facebook and YouTube. And they are losing ground very quickly with WhatsApp now being the largest messaging application, Messenger right behind there. So depending upon the study that we look at, there was one that came out in December of 2019 that suggests that 73 or 74% of all business and organization customers would prefer to communicate with an organization via messaging or texting. Absolutely key. This is why chatbots, messenger bots are going to be your most important growth channel. They say but for the next 5 to 10 years. I say 5 to 10 years is a bit rough, but for at least the next 5, most definitely. There's already 90 million businesses using Messenger. 300,000 have chatbots. And I see so many organizations that haven't even included their messaging contact details for people to send them a message when they look at your website. Go to your website, look at the Contact Us. You probably have a phone number, an email address. Is Messenger there? If you've got a Facebook page, you've got a Messenger account. You can have people message you directly from that link. And once you do that, you're going to be blown away by how many of them actually prefer that as the channel. Messaging is absolutely key. And this is where messenger marketing is going to get a 10 to 80 times better engagement than email or Facebook newsfeed. Open rates for messaging is 70 to 80% within the first 60 minutes. Now, last year in October, there were some major changes that came down with regards to Messenger. Getting permission to do outbound messaging broadcasts is much more challenging now as they're really trying to lock down the spam on messaging applications and really focus on privacy. But there's some great rules that we talk about in our communications program about how you use messaging, SMS or text messaging, and your email as an integrated communications platform to really maximize your openings. Because Messenger gets 70 to 80% open rates. But guess what? SMS messaging, if they opt in for text messaging, those get 90% open rates compared to email, which is typically 5 to 10%. So rethinking how you communicate and going forward, one of the most important things you need to think about this year is how are you using Messenger? How are you using SMS or text messaging? Not constantly focusing on email. So really rethinking where your strategies come from. And over the weekend, during Zuckerberg's live stream, he announced several key things, such as the potential for advertising on IGTV, but also Messenger Rooms. This is the Facebook, oh, look, Zoom's cranked up to 300 million monthly active users from 10. Maybe we should do this. So they have released a 50-person meeting room that is incorporated within Messenger. And so this is where we're seeing some unique features of this that is very different. This is more for casual connectivity within Messenger, either within an organization, sort of like dropping into the office, as opposed to Zoom, which is more focused on scheduled meetings and things that come from there. As we alluded to, the data within Facebook Analytics is absolutely phenomenal and critical as to how Facebook interacts. Insights tells you what happened on a particular post. Analytics tells you what happens across multiple platforms. So you can know who was on your Facebook page yesterday and watched a video, then did they go to your website, which pages did they go on your website, and did they come into your account on Messenger, and did they engage with your chatbot? That's the key things that you cannot get out of Insight. You can only get that within Analytics. We see here, what is the average time frame between customers interacting with a chatbot to a live interaction? May well be 0. 50% of all e-commerce transactions that were done in 2018 at Christmas involved either full or partly the use of a chatbot. In many ways, you're not interacting with a human at all. If the chatbot can solve the problems or answer the questions, that's all that they want. The human interactions are only designed to take over when the chatbot can't answer the question. Then it hands it off to the human. And as far as how quickly that interaction takes, depends whether it's within your business hours. It depends on how much you're online with dealing with the human interaction. It could be instantaneous. It could be an immediate handoff, depending upon how you've got it set up and structured. So, bottom line is, and this is one of the things, I'll post a tutorial video in the playlist as well, never ever make a Facebook post public. When you do a Facebook post, every single Facebook post needs to be a targeted post. All of that targeting that you can do through paid advertising, you also have the ability to target organic posts. When you put a post out that's public, this is you saying, I have no idea who should see this, and so Facebook randomly shows it. If you think you know who your audience is for a particular post, tell Facebook, I have a preferred audience. I really think the people that want to see this are living in Ontario, in this particular industry, in this age group. That doesn't prevent others from seeing the post, but it gives Facebook an idea when they're going to do EdgeRank, who should we show it to? So never, ever make a post just purely public. Always do targeted audiences, and we'll post a tutorial on that within the group to give you an idea on where that comes from. So, several major changes that have happened with Facebook that have completely revamped what your tactical deployment needs to be and how we're using Facebook. Key things, video, live video, absolutely key. Messaging applications have got to be a priority going forward. And groups, and more groups really has to be key, not the focus on a page. We've got to be using Business Manager, and we've got to be looking at our analytics and our insights to drive our learning going forward. So, that's all we've got for today. Facebook is such a huge section. We've still got a couple of minutes, according to my clock, to be able to take any questions. But again, if you do have questions following the session, feel free to type them in or to go into the Facebook group and we'll tap into that. On Wednesday, we're going to be taking a look at the second largest, by just a smidgen, social media platform, and that is YouTube, and take a look at some of the key elements where many organizations are not utilizing their YouTube channel effectively. So, any questions, folks? If you do, feel free to reach out to me through any of our other platforms. Other than that, thanks very much for joining us today. And again, I'd like to put one further shout out to our partner locations, the Gardner Center here at the Memorial University in St. John's, Newfoundland, Edwards Executive Education with the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon, and Sprott Professional Programs at Carleton University in Ottawa. So if you do have any questions at all, we're more than happy to take them. Other than that, thanks everyone for taking an hour out of your busy day. Stay safe and make sure you practice physical distancing. not social distancing. We can keep engaging through social media, providing it's appropriate. Have yourself a great one, and thanks again, everyone, for joining us.